So I heard just to wrap up or kind of close the loop on what we started yesterday. There has been a lot of people that basically made some really interesting suggestions. Felipe from South Africa, he loves data and he has a lot of um, passion, about the data in general, SQL, whatever. And I just want to point out what he had here shared with us. There is these libraries. Let me just show you here. He shared this thing here. It's something called uh, it's a system where you can basically um, generate you turn it into JSON, I think, or a bunch of tuples, and it defines every single piece in your statement. So it's like Elixir, I guess it's called Arctic C. So you basically have this statement and it basically breaks it apart, right? So identifier operator equal decimal, whatever, and then separator and then variable two and all that. I think it's pretty wild, what some of these libraries can do. Also, one other suggestion, I think Omar, you made that suggestion yesterday, which was the, uh, let's see here, you basically said, what if we do this, which is basically, I don't know if I can zoom in on that one, but what you're basically were saying is that we can insert the outcome of the table into a temporary table, right? That's what you made as suggestion yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Do you see any drawback to that?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. I don't know if Milan will join today. But like, yeah, I think temp table, like they're variables, so we don't need, I think, permission to create tables,
Mm,
which is good, I think. And like, I don't know if you have just like SSMS open, we can try some bad query into
like an
in our,
insert query? Absolutely, I'd love to. So let's do that.
yeah.
So let me close all the work stuff. Don't feel like sharing that with the world today. So let me just kind of close all documents and then let me disconnect from a couple of servers and let's just see here what we can do. Okay, so let's go back to this business here. So if I share this, let's see here. So you have the students, assignments. So let's do kind of malicious, let me drop a table or something crazy like that, right? We don't care because it's our own database. So what you basically suggested, just to kind of, loop back to this, you're basically saying, um, I, we basically gonna do something like that. So I'm just kind of copying what you what you suggested here, just so people can see it. I don't know why it's not letting me. Oh, it lets you zoom in to a certain extent. 369. Why just 369? That's just weird.
But
That's
it's good.
weird.
Like it's visible clearly here.
Is it visible enough? Okay,
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good. So let's see here. So if I say select into temp table, I thought you had to create that temp table. I don't know. We'll see. And then I say select all from students like that, right? And then I don't think you need do you? Do you actually need, it doesn't like it for some reason. Let's see what this does. Yeah, it doesn't like this one so much. So let's see
Um,
here. Let me kind of comment this one first. Let's just see what this does. Okay, so this says, why is it? Oh, it expects something after this part, by the way.
uh, it has been a long time since I did like SQL, but it is like it is valid to do this thing,
Okay.
like to fill a temp table with another data.
Let me see what people are doing here into this. The from, you did that, you did the from right. With select from blah, where convert char. Yeah, I think this statement here is missing something. I don't know what it is, but we could ask Bard. Oh, do you need to declare temp table? Let's see. So Gregory here says you need to declare temp table. I don't know why it doesn't like semicolons today. Let's see here. So SQL select write a SQL query for Microsoft SQL eSQL that selects a table into a temp table, something like that. Just see what AI has for this. Oh, it says oh, dude, the statement is completely different here. So what it's basically saying, the way to do this is to do something like that. That's not too bad, is it?
So this is assuming like we're reading from a table that's known, okay. But if we change the from, we should be able to kind of create the table on the fly as well.
I get it because I see what you were trying to do. You were basically saying select all from students like that. I don't think it likes that so much. Something is missing there for that one. What if I said where ID equals whatever? Does this matter? No. So whatever statement you want to put in there, it's going to have to be on the outside like that, which is weird. But I also think that you could, what if I'm joining tables? Like let's say students inner join student assignments on s.id equals student ID. Yeah, I guess it's okay. Except that this guy here doesn't know what all here means really. So is it s dot? Yeah, something like that. And then also you want the sa dot star or something like that. So this is here saying the column ID was specified multiple times, right? So it's not gonna let you get away with having two tables joined up together unless you kind of go and say, well, for sa.id as student assignment ID, now it's happy, right? So if I do that and I run this, I think that's not, and also, by the way, you have the problem with already existing objects. So you have to basically start with drop temp table. You even like drop a table. Let's see. You want how to drop a temp table in T-SQL. Yeah, it's just drop table and then temp table like that. Why is it tripping? Yeah, there you go. I wasn't wrong. It's just the this thing is wrong. So now if I run all of this, cannot drop table because it doesn't exist. Is there drop if exists? That would be
Yeah,
nice.
there is conditional, yeah, but I don't think this is the syntax for it.
It's not the syntax for it. But we're getting closer. So what I am hearing here is that if I go and run this and then go and say select all from temp table, because now it knows that object, and I just run all of this, there's already an object named blah there. It basically picked up the table. I think that would work. Now let's do something nefarious. Let's try to break it, right? So if I go and say, see, the problem is it's not going to let you do that kind of inner statement that you're thinking of, right?
It's just like reading here on the side. It seems like that temp table need to be declared with the column names and values. It can't be just temp table.
Why?
It's
It just worked right now. It just worked.
no, no. If we want to do the original idea of instead of from students, from select something, right?
Oh, really?
I was hoping
Interesting.
the temp table is just like a variable can accept because we're saying star star, so it should accept everything. That was my like assumption.
I see. So let me just see this. Values and then something or other. Unique. Someone told me the other day, like new ID, something like that. Yeah, there you go. And let's just say, John, like that. And doing this. So that's the problem, right? But I think this is a
Oh,
great.
actually,
Mm,
Hassan,
mm.
just alias it with as something here, like after the just remove one of the brackets, like just select stars from students.
Okay,
Yeah,
like
and
this.
run this. Yeah, run this.
Yeah, this should work, right? I think.
Like the
Look,
aliasing is important here. Yeah,
yeah,
it's important.
yeah.
Mm.
So now what if you try to do something crazy like drop able students? Ah,
Fair.
which is this is great because that basically means that the SQL is going to throw an error.
Hmm.
It's not going to let you. No, I think that's a great idea, right? Because that means that now it'll basically not let you do something like that. And even if it did, then you have this table, this temporary table to get data from. I love it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, Milan, if you're watching this, here's a great idea that you can start from. If you decide to go with an external library for validation and all that jazz, then you're going to have to put a service in front of it. So just think about your dependencies, in that chart, and what does that mean from a dependency standpoint? Because you can't just pull external libraries into your core business logic. That's just not how it works. You're going to have to wrap it up or abstract it somehow. Somehow you need to abstract this away. Okay, with that in mind, let's go back to entity intelligence here. So standard entity intelligence. Let's go to the source code and let's just see what happened um, to the uh, to the tests for validation, right? So let's just go back here. Let me share my screen over here. Let's take a jab at it. We have about 30 minutes. We can play around, right? So let's just go back here. Here's the standard data entity. Fantastic. Oh man, another idea just hit me today about, how we generate random data for unit tests. We can rely on AI to generate random data, but more systematic that is targeting certain scenarios and stuff. It's gonna be wild. I can't wait to see what we can do with like AI just opens up all these different doors, things that we thought in the past, well, that requires manual intervention. We don't have to do that anymore. So that's fantastic, I think. Okay, I think I'm on the right branch though. Am I right? Processing retrieve SQL query. I think that's the
Correct.
right branch. So let me kind of rebuild the real quick and make sure. Oh yeah, I need to switch over. Hold on, did I install Visual Studio Preview here? Visual Studio 2022 preview. I think that's the one. Let's see here. Blah blah. Okay, just give me a moment. Um, open projects, solutions. Let me look for Entity Intelligence. I love that it will access my GitHub and it will just try to uh, basically instead of having to open every other project, which is just a bad migrate, like a bad way to switch over, it'll just do that for me. Okay, this is great. So there's that, and then let me go back here because I disabled that option in my um, other instance. It started to break things in other projects, which wasn't fun. Fluent assertions could not be found. Are you missing? And what happened here? Hold on. So let me clean up all that jazz. Let's see here. Clean solution. Let's rebuild this. Yeah, this is much better. I like that more. And it has this built-in. Do you see why it's kind of barking at us? Look at this
Yeah, I disabled it.
informations.
It
Yeah,
doesn't work with
yeah,
us here.
it doesn't work with us, right? So okay, so so let's just run these tests here and see what happens. So let me dock these tests over here.
I think that you can get latest. There is some comments from Kailu.
Oh, he put in some commits. Okay, perfect. Let's see here. So okay, so I'm pulling latest. I don't have a failing test. Did he make it pass? Is that what he did? No, there you go. So let's see here. So this is should throw validation exception on retrieve. Should throw validation exception on retrieve if table information has invalid table names or columns. That's the one we're going after, right? And this
Yeah.
guy is basically saying expected. So the expected type was AI processing validation exception, but I got object reference is not set to an instance of an object because the validation never happened. I'm assuming. I'm assuming that we also didn't. This error here that we're talking about in here, it's basically something that we're trying to access, and we didn't validate that this something is not null before we do what we're doing. So I bet you it's coming from here. I bet you this null situation is coming from here. Let me put a let's just see where this test is pointing out exactly, and then we're gonna try to make it pass. No problem. So this is here coming into the exception, and then where is that exception is coming from? Let's go to the bottom of it. This is try catch, validate table information list. There you go. So somewhere here, basically, it's saying that we try to concatenate table names for validations, and then table columns validations. Okay, so that's really where it fails. Let's prove it. So let's go back here and let's fail at this point and see what happens. So if I step one more, it fails. And here it is, null reference exception. So what is null really? This table information is null, and we're trying to access the name for it. Do you know why that's a problem? Because usually when we do that access, right, if the table information itself is null, it shouldn't even try to access that particular piece. And that's what I thought this guy did. But this guy is basically validating if the table information in general is, but not the pieces inside that table information. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, we iterated on each and every one of these, but we forgot to validate that the element itself is null. Like the element itself in that list is null.
No, we did that actually, but I think the order we call the validate method here should, okay, we should call the validate multiple times here. So line 28 collects the first list of validations, should break here. So we should call the validate on these, right?
Yeah,
And then we go to the next step of validation, which is what we are trying to do today, I guess.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what you're I thought, man, I could swear I thought we did that.
We did that, but this is like in progress work in progress by Kailu. So there's
Mm.
some change in the order of lines.
So let me just go back to, okay, that's fair. Let me go back to the test here. The test is basically suggesting you're giving me a list and you're saying I'm gonna give you a null list. No, that's not it. That's not that's not the test that I'm looking for. Hang on. This is invalid table informations. There you go. So you're basically iterating and you're saying I'm giving you one that is um, uh, Gregor says check the theory data. That's right. So so this is one where the table information has null name, null columns, empty, null, white space, and all that. But we never really validated that the element itself is null. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did. If you go to the tests, there
The
is another
test.
failing test. Yeah, this the above, like the upper one.
This
This
one
one.
right here. Should throw
This
validation exception on retrieve if table informations is invalid. What's
this is for
inside?
the whole list. This is for the whole list. It's also failing, which shouldn't fail. Uh, uh,
This is probably failing because some changes that Kalu may have added in there.
yeah.
That's possible. Um, but okay, this is the natural query. Should throw validation exception on retrieve if table information has invalid items.
This is the
This
one you're
one,
talking about. This is the one.
this is the one, yeah. So
Mm.
this basically says invalid items, give me this shuffle. What did we consider as invalid though? Did we, let's see here. So we basically said random invalid items count, and we shuffled and we took the unique numbers and we basically said if this is the index, then here's the validation that we expect, and here's a null. That means this is your invalid table informations. And that one is failing. That one shouldn't be failing though. Then something must have changed because this one here should pass. This one here should basically say we're checking for null. I thought we made that test pass, Omar, didn't we?
We we did, yeah. But if you go to the business logic,
Uh-huh.
there is a change in the order of the validation statements. So
Ah,
yeah.
so
So the first one is the circuit breaker on line 25 or 26. That's fine.
26. Yeah,
But the after this one, like on line 28, we collected these nulls, right? But we didn't call the validate on them. So we should call the validate on after line 30.
that's true. That's true. I see what you're saying. So we
So
need to go basically and say validate, and that
I
is
know
your
I know what like Kailu is thinking here. Like he is collecting all the validations in one list and calling it on line 48 at one time.
yeah. We
Yeah, but
shouldn't
I think
we shouldn't
three
do
times.
that.
I mean,
Yeah, it
I
needs to
thought
be
so.
because that's a circuit breaker for the next validate. I agree. I agree 100%. Gregory says table informations in the theory data. That's right. I get it. I get it, Greg. So
To array.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so this should technically at least solve that one failing test, which is this one. It should, right? Technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Good. What about this one? Okay, so let's solve these one by one. So should throw validation exception on retrieve if table information is invalid. And that's the invalid table information. And this is us basically going and saying eh, the elements inside it. Do we have duplications and tests here? Because I thought that this test is doing the exact same thing. Yeah, is this a duplication?
I think I renamed the first one to be something else, like invalid table informations. This is the last one at the bottom. That's fine. The first one should be called invalid table information lists. I think. Yeah, invalid information lists.
Okay,
Third one. Okay. Maybe
let's
this
try.
is on me actually. This is my fault.
Well, that's why we're pairing. It's fun.
Yeah.
We get to blame each other. So let's see here. So let me run all of these. Let me just clean up the world here because this needs to be put back in. Okay, so I can just go back here and say this here is a pass, and this one here is also a pass. This one here. Okay, so that's one good commit. Now let's see what's the deal with the other guy, which is this guy. I'm guessing. Let's just see what Kailu did in there. He basically went and said in the table information list. So that solves that problem. We have table validations. That's validating on each and every element in that table. So he's collecting names and then collecting back again for columns. So he's running two runs basically in here. Why would that not why would that not pass that test? Let's see what this test has to say.
I think I know why. If you go to the business logic, he is concatenating the validations, including the ones we just fixed, right? Like maybe you need to clean that up a little bit.
Oh, is he? Okay. That makes sense. Let's see. Let's go back here.
Yeah,
Oh, isn't he? So that's all right. We don't need that anymore. That will cause a duplication. Well, they will be empty anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? Because if he passed this validation and we did a circuit breaker logic in there, it shouldn't matter. I don't think it would. Let's just see what this does. I think he basically fixed it. He basically just needed that one last push. That's all. Run. Okay. Maybe there's a couple of things more in here. So let's see what is blocking this. He's basically, oh, look, it's the inner exception that's complaining. He said expected inner exception to be invalid table information AI processing exception, but found invalid table information list. Oh, that's the easiest problem to solve, man. That's so let me just go back here. I think he just used the same validate method, and the same validate method is throwing the same exception, and that's the problem. You know what I mean? So look, this validate, we're using the same validate method, but the same validate method is using the same exception, right? So we basically want to go here and say validate for items or something like that. Or we might need to expand this one to be, so invalid table information, AI processing like that. And I need to take that list out. So that's Alt Control Shift will take the one word instead of having to do it by hand. The less you touch the mouse, the better. Um, and I remember meeting this guy. He worked in developing software since the 80s, and he wouldn't touch the mouse. He was wild. He was the fastest of us all. If it wasn't just for things that was going on with his life and all that, and him getting distracted with just some thoughts and stuff, you couldn't beat that guy on the keyboard. Um, I think these are slowing us down. These mouses are slowing us down. But I think this here what would do the trick for us. If I go back here and put this like this, I think that would fix the problem, Omar, don't you think?
yeah. If the messages match, I think so.
I hope the messages would match. You're talking about the exception message, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because like there's a couple of them, so let's confirm.
Ooh, okay. Unexpected error detected. I think Visual Studio is tripping. Let me clean up that junk. Let's rebuild. Okay, let's rerun the world again. So I basically just shut down everything. Let's see here. Come on. Still angry. Let's find out why it's still angry at us. It's basically saying expected inner exception of type AI processing invalid, but found inner exception, invalid table information list. Why is it still throwing list though? That's driving me wild. So if I go back to retrieve SQL query here, and this is our information list, and this is our validate invalid table information AI processing exception. So this is good, and it would throw if it contains errors. That's right. Are we handling it? That's the question. Are we actually even handling it?
Oh, good catch. Yeah.
So, so something similar to that. Control D, and then take away the list piece, right? And oh, there gotta be a fancier way to do this. And why are we calling this null though? Let's copy pasta, right? So let's put that here. Invalid, right? And I think there's a missing exception in here, by the way. It should handle null here somewhere. How come that's not present? I'm surprised. Why is it not present? That's weird. Because we called it invalid anyway? Maybe.
I think it's called invalid. Yeah.
Okay. So this also needs to be invalid. I still don't think that's the problem, but that's one problem. So if I go back into this test and try to run it, what happens? Come on, baby, you can do it. Mhm. So this here is saying I expected you to throw invalid table information AI process exception, but you're still throwing invalid table information list. So we need to block this guy. We need to put a breakpoint unless this guy is failing at some point and we don't know about it, right? For whatever reason. If this guy is failing for whatever reason, then that's why. That's basically we still didn't fulfill all the conditions or the data that we're passing in isn't good enough. So this here, the validations, okay, so if I step, uh-huh, see? So so the data that we're passing here is not good. It's not good yet. And why is that? Because we basically said isn't valid on the table information if it is null. And do we have a null
In the
value?
theory data, I don't
Yeah.
think so. I
Are you
don't
sure?
remember. Let's see.
We don't, right? Then why is it tripping? If I go random and valid table information, and then it picked up a count, what did it do with it? Unique random numbers. Look, it's returning null still. Why is it returning null? It shouldn't be returning null at all.
It's a copy paste.
Copy pasta. I thought you told me that your test is perfect. What happened
It's
there?
it's it's perfectly failing. Yeah, that was the goal, I guess.
I don't think we even need any of these because you already have a bunch of invalid table informations. Oh, and we wanted to shuffle them and put them into one. Got it, got it,
Yeah,
got it, got it, got it.
yeah. Maybe
So
remove the null here. 203, line 203. Remove the null.
yeah, so if I remove that, so you still need them. I mean, you already, yeah, I guess that would work. That would do it. So I think that would do the trick. That would definitely do the trick. Greg says some table names are null. No, no, no. The table name being null is great. I want it to be null, right? But the table information itself being null, that's a completely different layer of validation. Look at that. The test is passing. Yay. That's good news, right? I think. What do you think?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Or you can ship it now, I guess.
Ship it now, right? So, I mean, we're still gonna have to clean it up a little bit and all that, but this is a pass. I guess that's, I mean, Kailu did most of the work there. We just needed to, it's just the input, right? It helps a lot. We're still just as tribal as you can imagine. Have you ever seen how people feel sad when they're like no friends, nobody's calling, and they feel like we still have this tribal brain that thinks like when people were in isolation during COVID, they were feeling depressed because we still have this tribal mindset or primitive mindset of like if nobody's talking to me, then I'm abandoned by the tribe, and I start feeling sad and guilty and stuff like that. I think that's really one of the purposes of doing pair programming. A lot of people told me this. It kind of helps people mentally and psychologically kind of feel they belong somewhere and they work somewhere and they are in another part. Now, here's a question for you. Do we even need I guess it's okay. I guess this part is silly, right? Why would we do it this way? Right? This is silly. Why don't we just do that? Would that work? Like that? No? If I
I
run
think so. Yeah,
yeah,
should be kind of the
yeah,
same. Yeah.
yeah, that's silly. Let's do that. Look at that. Code rub, single declaration, single assignment, sorry. Okay, I think we're ready to move on, at least tomorrow, to the next piece of this. Do you want to dig into the columns next? So inside table information, there is a list of columns. That's just another layer, but that's the last layer. And inside this list of columns, we want to mandate that the name and the type are not null, empty, or white space. And that would be it. So it's like Inception. Did you start to feel like this whole validation thing is like the movie
Yeah.
Inception? We're just going a dream into another dream. Let's try to write a test for that tomorrow. If Kylo shows up, I'll make him write that test because we did his work today, so he's gonna have to do it. Otherwise, we'll see if we can pin it down on someone. That's the beauty about working on a team, right? You get to pin it on someone else and take credit for it when it's done. It's great. It's amazing corporate culture. That's the stuff that we that's the stuff what we want to do. Or what do you think? Do you think this is a worthy endeavor? What do you think?
You mean the test or in general, like what we're doing?
No, what we're doing is gonna be great. I promise you. Like, if I put where's my thing? If like I was telling you yesterday, if I put my smart glasses on, these X Real on, and I start talking to it and tell it, hey, pull me all the data that you have about blah blah, instead of just being like a robot and saying select asterisk from students where student name equal. This just makes me look like a nerd. I want to be cool. I want to put these glasses on and talk to it like Tony Stark from the Marvel movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's try and
No,
do that tomorrow. Let's dig a little bit deeper into it tomorrow. The one thing about these validations is that the end user can't do anything about it. Like they really can't. The best they could do is to basically like the final message that we're going to communicate upstream, it's going to have to be something interesting. It's going to have to be something like um, 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 it's going to have to be something that tells them who to ask and what to do. By the way, the whole idea of these exceptions is to offer suggestions as to how to solve the problem, not just to put them in a deadlock and say you're dead, you're screwed, you can't do anything about it. That's what exceptions were supposed to be. They're guidance, basically. Dinesh Nazir says, Hassan, I notice you are keeping long yet meaningful names to your methods, but our company is consider that as not a good naming convention. Do you agree? I mean, companies have all kinds of different strategies. By the way, if you really don't like the long names and all that, you're gonna have to find just a unique name. But what you can also do, just so you know, I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but you can literally go. I need to talk to Greg and Christo about this. But you could just name your test, right? Like you could go here and say, should retrieve SQL query or something like that. And you could basically say, I think it's name equal or something like this. One sec, let me remember the syntax. Display name. There you go. So check this out, Dinesh. If you go into the tests in here, if I rebuild like this, look what it's gonna do to my look what it will do to my test name. Where is it? Should retrieve SQL query. Come on. I need to clean this up and start over just to kind of get it to reload. Do you see? Do you see? I don't know if you can see this, but do you see how the name of the test became like natural? Omar, did you know about this trick? It's a pretty cool
Yeah,
trick.
I know, but actually, I am with the longer names as
Hmm.
long as they, if the name shouldn't leave you wondering what this test does.
Exactly.
If it is long, like we're not in the 80s where there is a limit to a variable name or something.
Yep.
You can have like as long as you want. Yes,
Yep.
no.
I've seen some people, and these are people that I'd like to think of as really smart people, but they would do stuff like this in Scala. They say should throw validation exception. The problem with this underscore, it's not a thing in C sharp. If you're doing underscore in C sharp, you better be using it for a discard. Other than discard, I don't see a situation like you could do, I don't know, you could do something like this and I don't know, something like a variable. You know, you could do that. It's hilarious, but you could do that. And you could do whatever you want in here, but it's the most useless line of code ever because you're not going to do anything with this. You're literally saying declare this, put crap in my memory that I'm never going to use. But there is a use for it. Don't get me wrong. There is an interesting use for it, but that's a story for another day. I could take a whole hour just to talk about discard. But if you're using underscores in general in C sharp, know that you're just diverging from what the original creators of the language actually intended for it to be, right? And this is very prominent. Omar, have you seen the folks that like to do? Let me revert that nonsense, and I'll tell you what have you seen the people that go do something like this, private read only, int, right? And they go do this.
Yeah, for private variables and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolute insanity. Because the original C sharp standard was they were basically doing this underscore ID, right? So now that we actually have this as a keyword, we don't need like this underscore is just a separator. It was just a simple separator to tell people that because they couldn't do that in C sharp 1, they would go and do this ID. But we already now have the keyword. So what some people did, they thought, oh, we don't need this anymore because we have this. Let's just do that like this. Craziness. That's not how the language is supposed to work. And then I love it when people go and say, well, the ASP.NET Core library is using it. My man, they're just people like you. They may or may not have known about this. So anyway, that's just a preference. Anyway, Dinesh, I hope that answers your question. Um, Omar, let's go ahead and validate that last round. You and I could validate it, and once we're done with it, I think we are ready to move on to orchestration. Hopefully, Milan will be ready by then, so we can just build that orchestration or coordination service and move on with our lives. Because we need to build the UI for this one still, right? Ideally, it's going to be a desktop application, open source desktop application. You go to Microsoft Store, download it, put the connection string, and then run with it.
That's good.
Cool. Fantastic. Let's talk tomorrow. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you
Thank you.
soon. Take care. Bye.